Hey, do you believe in curses? I do. Actually, I don't really know if that's really true. But if there is one curse on this side of heaven that I might believe in, that would be the curse of Bobby Layne.
Oh, come on, Keegan. You don't think the entire Detroit Lions franchise is actually cursed?
What? Of course I do. And so does everyone who's ever had a Michigan zip code.
I want to start this off by giving a quick disclaimer. If you are a Lions fan, side effects of watching this video may include sadness, anger, anxiety, excessive consumption of alcohol, excessive drug use, bleeding of the eyes and ears, sleepless nights, the contraction of certain rare diseases, and just overall depression. Shall we begin? But hey, do you know what? History is important. History is important. It's an important subject. I mean, we need history. We need history. I don't know why. I don't know. I've just been told something about learning, if that's important. And also, past mistakes, future mistakes, whatever. Go grab your emotional support snacks and let's go. So what exactly is a curse? Okay, a curse is a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. This is not even real dictionary. I don't even think I own one of those. So curse, yes, sounds familiar, right? Not just with the Lions. For me, I think I've been cursed in many ways, probably by multiple people, because my life fucking sucks. So the next question I ask is, who is this Bobby Layne guy? This stupid guy, and why did he lay a curse on the Detroit Lions? This takes us all the way back to December 19th, 1929, the day I will be traveling back in time to make sure that little baby Bobby Layne does not finish his first day on this earth. I'm just kidding. I would never. I would never. That was the day that Bobby Layne was born in Santa Ana, Texas. Yoo-hoo! I'm not making fun of Texans with that accent. That's actually kind of how he talked. that was his official language.
We had been very successful with Detroit.
Shortly after he was born, America collapsed into a Great Depression. Am I saying that there's a connection here? Who am I to say? But maybe. Maybe he cursed the economy as well. But he grew up into a fine young man. He ate his Wheaties, he drank lots of milk, and then he eventually played college football for the University of Texas. For the Longhorns, Bobby Layne was an absolute stud, okay? I mean, just look at these achievements. It's endless. It's insane. Most notably, he was the MVP where he led the Longhorns to a 40-27 victory over Missouri. He accounted for all 40 points, by the way. He threw for 2 touchdowns, he rushed for 3, and then he also kicked all of the extra points. So quarterbacks back then also kicked the field goals. It was different time back then, just different time. But that game is now known as the Bobby Layne Show. He also led Texas to victories in the 1945 Orange Bowl and the 1948 Sugar Bowl. By the time he left Texas, he had multiple school records, including, but not limited to, career passing yards, passing touchdowns, and just total offense. So he was just a one-man show. He was a one-man army. He was just a red-blooded American patriot, a real salt of the earth, friend of the show. And I forgot to mention that he was also one of the best pitchers to ever play for the Texas Longhorns baseball team. So yeah, big stud, big stud. So in 1948, Bobby Layne was drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was the 3rd overall selection in the NFL draft and the 2nd overall selection in the AAFC draft by the Baltimore Colts. For those of you who don't know, the AAFC was eventually absorbed by the NFL in 1950. He did not want to play for the Steelers, however, so his rights were quickly traded to the Chicago Bears. The Baltimore Colts offered him around $77,000, which translates to today's money to, I don't know, I'm not good at math, but I'm guessing it translates to about $50 billion. However, he did tell the Baltimore Colts to fuck themselves, and he decided to play for the Chicago Bears. So yeah, times were different back then. You had multiple professional football leagues, and not this monopoly bullshit we have going on today. And that's why the NFL can just get away with their commie, satanic, refs ruining games, nonsense. Bobby Layne played for the Chicago Bears for one season as a third stringer, mind you, before he was traded to the New York Bulldogs. Yes, that is a thing, the New York Bulldogs. Here's their logo. It's interesting. I didn't know that there was the New York Bulldogs before, but it's interesting. With Bobby Layne as a quarterback, the Bulldogs won only one game and had 11 losses. And then he was finally traded to those beautiful Honolulu Blue Bastards, the Detroit Lions, in 1950. This is where the fun begins. Bobby Layne's time with the Detroit Lions was actually glorious and illustrious.
The Lions of the 50s were kind of like the Patriots of the 2000s. They were it in the 50s, right?
From 1950 to 1958, Hall of Famer Bobby Layne quarterbacked the dominant Detroit Lions, bringing home 3 of the franchise's 4 world championship titles. Bobby was known for his leadership and tenacity, but most importantly, embodied Detroit's toughness, making him the perfect fit for a blue-collar city built by hard-working auto factory linesmen. If there was ever a quarterback made to lead the Lions, it was Bobby Layne.
They won 3 championships. It's really something else.
3 championships in 5 years. The Detroit Lions. I would like to give a shout out to First Team Football. I'm going to be using some of his clips about this Curse of Bobby Layne in this video, and I'm going to leave a link to his video in the description. Definitely go check him out. His videos are highly informative and they're very, very entertaining. So please just go check out his channel and subscribe. After that, the Detroit Lions had their ups and downs with Bobby Layne.
Bobby Layne's been retired since 1963, but he still holds a lot of records that will never be broken.
Really? Like what?
Most passing yards, touchdowns, and completions while legally intoxicated.
He just drank and drank and drank and then would go out there and just, who was it? Art Donovan of the Colts said he hit Bobby and then he calls it the whiff of alcohol that came out of him.
Bobby, you must have had a hell of a night last night. He said, I may have had a few at halftime. And, I wouldn't doubt him.
The Lions grew tired of their quarterback's off-the-field antics and signed veteran Tobin Rote, number 18, to split time with Layne. Layne wasn't happy with the arrangement, but soon he would go from sharing a job to not having one.
And then in 1957, he broke his leg in 3 different places in a good old-fashioned American pileup.
October 6, 1958. For Detroit, a day that will live in infamy. 2 games into the defense of their 3rd championship in 6 years, the Lions trade Layne to Pittsburgh for Earl Morrall and 2 draft picks.
And at this moment, he uttered the words,
"The Detroit Lions will not win a championship in 50 years."
This curse will last to the end of time. No power on earth can change it.
And so it begins. Just the overall stank that has plagued the Detroit Lions. And it was immediate, too. It's not like the curse took its time or anything. Nope. So history is important. History is important. Stay with me, Lions fans. Please. This is going to get dark. The Lions failed to make the playoffs once in the entirety of the 60s, and they had 7 losing seasons in that decade. But I'm guessing the hippies probably didn't really care too much. They were too busy tripping balls.
In 1970, after 12 seasons without a division championship or playoff berth, the playoff drought ended. But Detroit failed to cure their playoff woes, losing to the Cowboys in the divisional round 5-0.
That's going to be it. That's the end of the ball game. The final score: Dallas 5, Detroit nothing.
5-0. That's a weird score, isn't it?
That would prove to be their only shot to end the streak, as the Lions stumbled through the 70s, failing to make the playoffs again, and closing out the decade with another below 500 record.
In 1980, things started to look a little bit better when they drafted running back Billy Sims with the first overall pick. Sims was electric in his first season, and he was actually named Offensive Rookie of the Year. They won 9 games in 1980 and 8 games in 1981. And if you're a Lions fan, you know that's incredible. The playoff victory drought could have ended when they faced off against the Washington Redskins. However, the fruits of their labor were spoiled when they got pantsed 31-6. The curse reared its hideous head again in 1984.
1984, Bobby came knocking once again, and tragedy struck the Lions franchise. In an October game at the Metrodome, a stadium known for its horrific turf, the Lions faced off against division rival Minnesota. With the Lions trailing 14-7 in the third quarter, Sims took a toss sweep right, but as he tried to cut, his right foot caught on the turf, and he went down.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Billy Sims holding his right knee.
The injury, originally believed to be a knee sprain, caused nerve damage in Billy's right knee. Despite his efforts, Billy failed to regain full feeling in the joint, and as a result, never played again. For the remainder of the 1980s, the same old Lions were back. Detroit failed to make the playoffs after '83, and recorded 6 straight losing seasons to close out the decade. It was more of the same.
The Lions struggled until 1989, when they drafted the greatest running back of all time, Barry Sanders. Now, I know that's my opinion, that the greatest running back of all time is Barry Sanders, but it's also a fact. The savior has arrived to juke the Curse of Bobby Layne out of its fucking jockstrap.
Although Barry's first 2 seasons in Detroit were losing ones, he was remarkable, often leaving fans' jaws and opposing players on the ground as he juked and cut his way to the end zone. The Lions finally felt they had someone to build around, and built around them they did. With Wayne Fontes on the sidelines and Barry Sanders in the backfield, the Lions ran all the way to their first Central Division crown in nearly a decade, winning 12 games for the first time in franchise history. In their first playoff game since 1983, the Pontiac Silverdome was packed with starved fans dying to see a 3-decade-long playoff winless streak finally come to an end. And end it did. The Lions dominated the Cowboys in the divisional round 38-6, thanks to 3 touchdown passes from Eric Kramer and a patented 47-yard touchdown run from Barry.
Sanders still on his feet, and Sanders is gone.
With the decisive win over Dallas, the Lions advanced to their first NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl era.
They snapped their winless playoff woes. They snapped its fucking neck. But then in the following week, the Lions were completely destroyed by the Washington Redskins, 41-10.
As once again, good old Bobby came calling. The next offseason, after losing one promising young guard, Mike Utley, to a career-ending injury that left him paralyzed, the Lions lost their other guard when Eric Andelsek was tragically struck and killed by a semi-truck in his front yard. Earlier that summer, the Lions also lost their defensive back coach Len Fontes, brother of head coach Wayne Fontes, when he passed away suddenly from a heart attack. Distracted and filled with sadness, the Lions regressed tremendously, finishing the '92 season 5-11 and missing the playoffs. After a disappointing season, Detroit was back in '93. They won the NFC Central for the second time in 3 years and were matched up with division rival Green Bay in the wildcard round. The Packers, led by a young gunslinger Brett Favre, were driving, trailing by 3, needing a touchdown to win it, and with only a little time left on the clock, Favre found Sterling Sharp for an improbable 40-yard touchdown.
Wide open. Touchdown! Sterling Sharp! He got away and scored the touchdown with 55 seconds left.
Green Bay closed out the Lions on defense, and Detroit fans were reminded, once again, that the Curse of Bobby Layne was far from finished.
They're going to win it! The Packers are going to win it!
And for the rest of the 90s, the Lions actually made the playoffs 3 more times, but without a victory. After another losing season in 1998, the Detroit Lions received an ominous fax from Wichita, Kansas, right before training camp. All-Pro and future Hall of Fame running back Barry Sanders announced his retirement.
My desire to exit the game is greater than my desire to remain in it. I have searched my heart through and through and feel comfortable with this decision.
You know, I was glad to get out of there.
The feeling I had through all of it was that he would be back, but that didn't happen.
I remember that day, and I was devastated. I didn't eat, sleep, shower, or leave my bedroom for like a month. I was like a troll. I was like an orc. I basically turned into an orc from the Lord of the Rings. And that was just the beginning of the rapid downslide of the Detroit Lions. I mean, shit got way worse from here. Now we head into the 2000s, which, believe it or not, is the unluckiest era of Detroit Lions football. Bobby's curse was still haunting this franchise. It just would not go away. I mean, fuck you, Bobby Layne. Just go on. Go away, please. Go on, get. You really can't blame Bobby Layne for the horrific coaching hires that the Detroit Lions had. Coaches like Steve Mariucci, Rod Marinelli, and Marty Mornhinweg. Hey Lions, how about you hire a coach that has a last name that doesn't start with M? Have you thought of that? I mean, one last name that starts with M.
Shame on you.
Second head coach with the last name that starts with M. You fool me once, you won't fool me again.
You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Poor coaching hires were a main factor to the downfall of the team during this period, including hires like Steve Mariucci, Rod Marinelli, and Marty Mornhinweg, who famously elected to take the wind against division rival Chicago. On a gusty day in the Windy City, Mornhinweg elected to defend after winning the coin toss in overtime, stating that the tumultuous conditions were the deciding factor in his choice. The Bears would go on to win the game with a field goal on their first drive.
Good. The Lions win the toss but never get the ball. Oh boy.
I mean, it's impossible stupidity. It should be impossible. I mean, what a fucking idiot. The general manager at this time was Matt Millen, who was a curse himself, or at least made a deal with the Curse of Bobby Layne, because Matt Millen...
You are a piece of shit.
The man who oversaw the operation during this time period was Matt Millen, arguably the worst GM in the history of professional sports. During his tenure, he blew multiple high first-round draft picks on busts like Charles Rogers, Joey Harrington, and Mike Williams. Things got so bad under Millen that Lions fans attended games with bags over their heads, and chants of "Fire Millen" echoed through the rafters. Prior to the start of the 2008 season, owner William Clay Ford decided he had finally seen enough. Heeding the advice of fans, Ford fired Millen.
I mean, seriously, Matt Millen is considered to be the worst GM in NFL history. He might be the worst GM in just all of professional sports history. But who knows? It's hard to say. But he was just awful. Just straight ass cheeks. I mean, he was stinky. So the year is 2008. 50 years after the curse was spelled on the Detroit Lions. I mean, it's over, right? We can get back to playing just good old-fashioned American football. Yay!
Wrong.
The Lions finished that season 0-16.
And then we went an entire season without winning a game.
By record, they are the worst team in league history. 0-16.
Maybe the curse is just lingering a bit, right? But that's what curses do, right? They just linger a little bit. They linger. They don't just disappear right away, right? I mean, that's just silly and factually incorrect. I mean, curses linger a bit. I'm sticking with that.
The Lions would lose their remaining games this season, becoming the first team in NFL history to finish 0-16. However, there was one silver lining from this season: the 2009 number 1 overall draft pick.
But this should surely break the curse. In 2009, the Detroit Lions drafted Matthew Stafford out of Georgia. Matthew Stafford went to the same high school as Bobby Layne, Highland Park, and he even lived on the same street. I believed he lived like 6 blocks away from Bobby Layne, but it was the same street. This is it. Curse is broken. And this is still around the 50-year mark. So will this draft pick finally break that dastardly curse? The Lions also had Calvin Johnson, nicknamed Megatron. This guy was a beast, just a monster. One of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game. The Lions also had new head coach Jim Schwartz. So they got a new young coach, really good quarterback coming in, the best receiver, winning formula. It's time to throw that curse in the trash and start winning some football games. Unfortunately, the curse took on a new form, and that form wears black and white stripes. The awful Nationvilleburg Zebras. I mean, it's a good team they have, the Zebras. A very good team. Talented squad. They don't ever lose. And during this era of Detroit Lions football, they were pretty much undefeated.
Hill looking for Calvin Johnson again. It appears to be a game-winning touchdown catch for Calvin Johnson. It is ruled an incomplete pass on the field. Replay officials confirm the call on the field.
He catches it. I mean, it was an amazing catch. 2 feet, falls down. Calvin Johnson clearly caught this touchdown. He caught the ball.
And then it's Thomas. He's going to reach for it. And is he down?
Where is he down?
Wow.
sack. And he's still going, and the officials are acting like it's still a live play. Elbow, forearm, he's going to be down.
The result of the play is a touchdown. There will be a 15-yard penalty.
Stafford to Pettigrew. Looks like he's face guarded by the Dallas Cowboys. Flag on the play. Des Bryant comes out without his helmet to argue. No flag on that. And then the flag that was thrown on this was picked up.
But even a Bears fan has to admit that was a little suspect. I had never seen anything like that before.
Face mask. Number 98 defense, Lou.
I don't know, did it get the face mask?
Stafford's throw, catch made, touchdown Lions!
Reviewing the play, the ruling on the field is changed. By rule, we would go back to a running clock and we have a 10-second runoff. So by rule, the game is over.
You can't end a game that way.
So you can't bat the ball in any direction in the end zone, either end zone. So KJ Wright batted the football. That is a foul for an illegal bat. The back judge was on the play. In his judgment, he didn't feel it was an overt act. Hands to the face, defense.
I'm trying to figure out, when does he actually put hands to the face there?
Illegal use of hands to the face, defense.
But again, where? It just can't happen though. Called twice tonight and at the most critical junctures.
Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I need to take a break as well. Those damn zebras shoveled a lot of pain our way. Just shoveled it. And honestly, there might be an entire chapter in the NFL rulebook titled The Detroit Lions, because there were so many times the Detroit Lions got screwed by the refs, and the NFL had to review those rules and make changes after the fact. I mean, I'm convinced. I really am. I'm convinced. All right, I'm good. I'm good. Are you good? I'm good. And on top of all this, the trend of Detroit Lions superstars retiring early happened again with Calvin Johnson, Megatron, in 2016.
When it's time to take out next day, walked to the office, sat down, like, Coach, I'm done, I'm retired. I can't do it anymore. I broke down crying, and he was just like, you sure? So I can't do it.
So the Curse of Bobby Layne is still alive and healthy at this point. It's very well fed. It's getting its nutrients. I believe its nutrients are the tears of Detroit Lions and their fans, but it's definitely getting its nutrients.
The Lions would go on to miss the playoffs that year. Caldwell was fired, and Matt Patricia was hired. There was a lot of hype surrounding the Patricia hire. The Lions had a talented veteran roster, and Patricia was widely regarded as a defensive genius, thanks to his famous play call that won New England Super Bowl 49, with whispers that veterans were disgruntled by Patricia's Patriot Way coaching style that included grueling practices and verbal confrontations during team meetings. Patricia's first game was indicative of his entire tenure as Lions head coach, when the team was blown out of their own building by the New York Jets 48-17. After the loss, Lions players never bought into Patricia's Patriot Way. Over the next 3 seasons, Patricia and Quinn failed to achieve a winning record, with a result of 14, 33, and 1 as heads of the franchise. On Thanksgiving Day 2020, the duo was fired, leaving the next regime with a roster lacking big-time playmakers thanks to poor drafts and a toxic culture.
So that's it. Matt Patricia, he's gone. Gone. And in June of 2020, Sheila Ford Hamp, daughter of Martha Ford, took over as owner of the franchise. And her job was to find a new general manager and head coach to churn this ship around. Her first move was to hire former linebacker Chris Spielman to lead that search. For general manager, Chris Spielman found Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes was a director of scouting for the Los Angeles Rams, a team he helped take to the Super Bowl. Now, they lost that Super Bowl, but he was instrumental in finding the talent to take that team to the Super Bowl. And then Chris Spielman found the new head coach, Motor City Dan Campbell.
Here's what I do know. This team is going to take on the identity of this city, all right? And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth, all right? And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
I would like to think that the ghost of Bobby Layne saw that opening press conference and was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good, man. I don't want any trouble.
I don't want no trouble. You just take what you want and leave.
I like my kneecaps unbitten. And you know, maybe that's it. Maybe curses like their kneecaps. You know, a lot of people were laughing at Dan Campbell for that opening press conference, but maybe he was onto something. Maybe he knew something. But maybe he knew that to break a curse, you better just start talking about taking kneecaps. Curse be gone. I mean, who knows? I mean, anything's possible in this fucked up world. But it wasn't all over just yet. A blockbuster trade took place on January 30th, 2021. The Lions traded Matthew Stafford to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for Jared Goff and a bunch of future draft picks. The Rams did win the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford that season. However, the Lions were in their rebuilding process, and were actually starting to build a pretty solid foundation. In Dan Campbell's first season, the Lions went 3-13-1. Despite the losing record, there was a spark there that Lions fans have not seen in a very, very long time. After that season, the Lions used their draft picks from the Rams to just add to that talent. They drafted Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams. We were starting to see a good team take shape. So anticipation was high going into the 2022 season. And the Lions started that season 1-6. Oh no, is this just another failing cycle that the Lions get themselves into, where they hire a coach, they suck for a few years, they fire that coach, and they bring someone else in, rinse and repeat? I mean, are we in just for another decade of pain and suffering? Is the curse of Bobby Layne just still rubbing its doo-doo all over this team? It was definitely starting to look that way, but Sheila Ford Hamp looked reporters in the eye and said,
"We really believe we're going to turn this thing around the right way through the draft. It requires patience. It's frustrating, but I think we really are making progress. You know, you've seen it. I just don't want everyone to push the panic button and give up the ship, because I think we've got the right people in place to pull this off. And I truly believe that. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it."
We're not changing anything. So the Lions were 1-6, and then something funny happened.
Bobby Layne never played here, but his name's up there.
Yeah, there it is.
And over there are the championship banners that Bobby won.
Yeah.
It says that you can actually lift a curse by using an object that a person wore. This was Bobby Layne's helmet. Half the players had gold helmets, half of them had silver.
Why the is there a bathtub in the end zone of Ford Field?
Fill a tub with 100 cups of water and a cup of salt.
Doesn't smell like water.
Because it's whiskey. Bobby Layne would have preferred that. Now pour the salt in the whiskey. Nice. Read this mystical incantation instead.
In the name of Motown, Eminem, and Ed McMahon, I call upon thee, O creatures of earth and whiskey, cleanse the Detroit Lions of the curse of Bobby Layne, and restore the roar of the Lion pride to balance and health.
So mote it be. And just like that, the curse of Bobby Layne was lifted forever.
Now, I understand that all of this was just tongue-in-cheek and a comedy skit, and it was funny. But something very interesting happened after this episode of Peyton's Place aired on October 31st, 2022. Immediately after, the Detroit Lions started to win. They started that season 1-6. The episode aired, and then the Lions finished the season 9-8 and almost made the playoffs. Holy shit! So going into the 2023 season, expectations were pretty high for the Detroit Lions. They used their remaining draft picks from the Rams to just add more insane talent. Talent like Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, and Brian Branch. And for the first time in a very long time, this was a talented team. I mean, they were stacked at this point. And in 2023, the Lions went 12-5. I mean, it was really 13-4. But someone forgot to tell the Zebras that the curse is over, and they totally screwed the Lions over in that Cowboys game. It is what it is. But hey, things are looking good, looking incredible. I'm actually starting to get this feeling, and I'm not sure what it is. I believe it's called hope. I think I'm feeling hope.
Hope.
Hope. So the Lions finished the season not only winning one playoff game, but they won two. They beat the Rams in the wild card round, and then they beat the Buccaneers in the divisional round. However, they did lose in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers in the most Lions way possible. They were up by 17 at halftime, and they just blew the lead. And that left some of us wondering, is the curse finally gone? I believe it is. I mean, I don't really know if I believe in curses to begin with, but being a Lions fan, it's kind of easy to believe that curses actually exist. But heading into this 2024 season, the Detroit Lions are the team. They are that team. And being a team with so much character and charisma, it's really hard not to love this team. It just seems like a lot of people are just kind of getting behind the Lions a little bit. It's actually pretty awesome. They are the talk of the town. Also, a lot of people are saying Super Bowl or bust, and I would like to address that for a minute. Obviously, I want nothing more than the Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl. I mean, this is the best, and I'm not lying. This is the best that I've seen the Detroit Lions play in my lifetime. And I really just want to enjoy it. I just want to smell every minute of it. And I don't want to ruin this moment by placing the highest expectations on this team, which is a Super Bowl victory. I'd rather just really enjoy the moment. I want to absorb it in. I want to take it in. I just really want to enjoy it. So that's my opinion on the whole thing. So what do you think? Were the Lions cursed? Does the Curse of Bobby Layne really exist? Is it gone? All I know, curse or not, I am really excited to see the Detroit Lions this season. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Also, please make sure to check out First Team Football, watch his videos, subscribe, check him out. You'll enjoy it. Thank you very much. Cheers.